Oh, I didn't see you there. Listen, are you a fan of quirked up white boys that bust it down sexual style and are goated with the sauce? Well, you should check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/demonjoe, link in the description. We stream around 4 times a week, gonna be streaming a lot of Witch Queen as well, and I'd love to have you over there. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the video. Destiny 2 hot takes, ladies and gentlemen. Pre-Witch Queen, by the way. This video is pre-Witch Queen. Over on my YouTube community tab and on my Twitter, which, by the way, @demonjoefrance, you should totally follow me there. Link in the description. Lots of antics going on, so highly recommend. I asked you guys to give me your Destiny 2 hot takes. I've been wanting to get you guys involved, you know, us as a community involved in a YouTube video. I like interacting with you guys all the time on Twitter and Twitch, and I wanted to do something here on YouTube, so I wanted you guys to give me your hot takes. I was going to throw you all in a video, and we were going to make the most banging hot take video on YouTube, and that's what today is all about. I have 25 hot takes that I want to go over in today's video. A lot of really interesting takes, a lot of interesting topics that I think you guys are going to enjoy. Highly recommend grabbing a glass of water because it is going to get spicy, ladies and gentlemen. We have 25 of these. I don't want this video to be an hour, so without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, the first hot take that we have is from my YouTube community tab, which says, sunsetting was actually good for the game. I really hate that I grinded for Recluse, Mountaintop, etc. just to see them sunset, but I feel like the game wouldn't have had the best year ever if we couldn't enjoy all the new toys and the best weapon balance in forever, if we would still be running around with Mountaintop, Recluse, 21% Delirium. Although I think Bungie went overkill and probably did it so they wouldn't have to increase vault space, some weapons definitely needed to leave to create a better experience for everybody. And of course, with this hot take, I 100% agree. If you guys have been longtime subscribers of mine, you know that I was a big proponent and supporter of sunsetting whenever Bungie first announced it for Destiny 2. Now granted, I didn't know how horrible Bungie was going to be whenever it came to implementing that, but you know, I like the idea of sunsetting. I've been playing Destiny since Destiny 1's alpha, and that game would sunset your exotics, you know, whenever new DLCs would come out. Now, the reason that it worked in Destiny 1, of course, is because Bungie had a massive catalog of weapons, you know, to give us after we lost some of our weapons, after we lost some of our exotics, a massive catalog of new stuff that we could check out when a new DLC dropped. And of course, with Beyond Light, we had like 3 guns. You know, obviously that's hyperbole, but a $10 Season of the Chosen, had more loot in it than the entirety of Beyond Light did as a $40 expansion. So yeah, the way that Bungie did sunsetting was awful. I am glad that they did it. And even with Witch Queen, we are getting another version of sunsetting, whether you guys know it or not. With weapon crafting and weapons 3.0, you know, being able to level up your weapons, enhance your stats, getting better versions of perks, literal enhanced perks on new weapons, you know, it brings up the scenario where I'm like, dude, I like my Arctic Haze, right? But the summoner that's getting reintroduced, you know, the Trials auto rifle, that solar auto rifle, you know, I'm going to be able to level it up. I'm going to be able to give it better stats, enhanced perks that are better than the perks on Arctic. I mean, even if the perks are the exact same, you know, the enhanced perks will just be better versions of what I already have. So it's basically willingly, you know, making me want to put down my old gear and then go for the new stuff. And the cool thing about it is that I can always go back and use my old stuff in any kind of content that I want. So yeah, I think sunsetting is good for the game. The harsh version of sunsetting that we did get in the long run was good, even though it sucked at the time. And even with Witch Queen, we are getting a soft version of sunsetting that's making the newer weapons more enticing and kind of making us willing to put down our old stuff. But yeah, the way that Bungie implemented it was trash, but I do think in the long run, yeah, it was good for the game. Now, moving on from there, speaking of, you know, all the weapon crafting stuff that we were just talking about, we have a hot take from Twitter, which says weapon crafting will be far more grindy than most people care for, and people will ask for a handout within the first week. Now, Destiny is my job. All right, let's go ahead and say that now, because I know that whatever I say here, people are going to be in the comments like, Joey, you play this game for a living, shut your elitist mouth. But listen, right? Regardless of how grindy weapon crafting may or may not be, mathematically, we will be having a higher chance of getting the rolls that we want regardless on any weapon, right? No matter how grindy weapon crafting is, we will be at a net positive for getting weapons that we want. Now, I kind of want weapon crafting to be grindy. You know, the way that Bungie has described it, they have described it as like a journey with your weapon, a long-term investment, right? I want that. I want to be using a weapon for a long time, and like a few weeks, I mean, maybe even a month down the line, you know, obviously I might not be using it all the time, but you know, little by little, and I'm finally there, and I'm like, dude, I got all these enhanced perks, these stats are really cool, you know, I can see the date that I discovered this weapon, when I crafted it, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I like that. I really like that idea. As far as like weapon crafting being grindy though, the one thing I am scared about is like the materials needed for crafting. You know, I kind of hope, I guess what I should have said is the leveling process of a crafted weapon, I do want to be grindy, but if they are being very stingy with materials and it's like I can't craft a weapon, I can maybe craft like one weapon every 2 weeks, then yeah, that's a little bit ridiculous. I don't want that to happen, but I do want that long-term investment with a weapon to where, you know, I'm using it forever, and like a week down the line, maybe 2 weeks, I can then get an enhanced perk for it, right? But I don't want the act of like crafting my weapon to get it into my hands taking, you know, absolute ages. You know what I mean? I just want the journey to be long whenever I get the weapon that I do want. So I do see that this could be a thing, weapon crafting being way more grindy than the community may like. We'll have to see. I don't think it could possibly be as bad as Transmog was when it first came out. So perhaps Bungie's learned a lesson, and unlike Transmog, weapon crafting can't be monetized. So I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, we'll see whenever Witch Queen drops. Now, moving on to the next hot take, we have I don't mind the nerf to Ward of Dawn. Not saying I wanted it, I just don't mind and wouldn't mind if they reverted this nerf. I enjoy using Ward of Dawn defensively to protect teammates, and that enjoyment isn't being affected by the damage buff nerf. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Ward of Dawn is having its damage nerfed by, I believe, 10% or something like that. One of the Bungie developers ended up confirming on a podcast, and here's my stance, right? If Ward of Dawn is getting nerfed, the only way that I'm going to be okay with that is if Well of Radiance has its damage buff completely removed, right? Well of Radiance should not, it should never be stronger than Ward of Dawn. Ever, under any circumstance, should it be stronger from a damage buff perspective, because you are playing Middle Tree Solar Warlock. You are a healer class. The healing class should not be able to provide a well that not only gives you unlimited health and overshield, but also gives you a damage buff that you can use while sitting in the well. See, the difference, the reason that Ward of Dawn worked previously is that it would give you a higher damage buff, right? But you would have to step outside of the bubble and then be defenseless. With Well of Radiance, you're damn near invincible and you get a bunch of damage. That does not sit right with me. If Ward of Dawn gets its damage nerfed, the only way I'm okay with it is if Well of Radiance does no damage. If it gives 0 damage and it's only there to keep people in a damage phase, and you're gonna have to find other means of being able to deal damage, whether that be Ward of Dawn, whether that be, you know, Empowering Rift, whether it be Font of Might, you know, I don't care. But a healer class should not be providing a better kind of support super in this way than one that is meant to be like protective and also give a bunch of damage, right? Because it's not protecting you at the same time as it is giving you damage like Well of Radiance is. So if Well gets a nerf, I don't mind the Ward of Dawn change, but I do respect how you do use Ward of Dawn. I'm mainly a raider and someone that does dungeons, so I've always used it for DPS, and so that's, you know, that's just how I feel about it. Now, moving on, we have this take. This is a very, very interesting take. This is going to be the new Sonic 06. He's talking about Witch Queen. Something we get so excited for, thought would be so good, and yet it was an absolute mess, and by far the biggest disappointment we've seen yet, next to D2 Year 1. Woo! Okay. I could totally, this could be totally like proven or whatever, whenever Witch Queen comes out in the next few days, but I think from what we've seen on paper, it is impossible for Witch Queen to be a letdown. I think from everything that we have seen on paper alone, this DLC is guaranteed better than Beyond Light, and it's guaranteed better than Shadowkeep. I mean, I think Shadowkeep is one of the worst DLCs. I'm not going to count Curse of Osiris and Warmind, like one of the mainline DLCs, right? 𝗏𝗏𝗡 was bad. You know, we paid to get a destination that we already had in Destiny 1. Garden of Salvation at the time was, you know, pretty underwhelming, although it has gotten a bit of a cult following as time has gone on. A bit of Heresy was cool, but I don't like 𝗏𝗏𝗡, man. It wasn't even like, you know, normally whenever you buy a DLC, you get like a guaranteed new destination, and 𝗏𝗏𝗡 was the moon, right? But with Witch Queen, we're getting Savathûn's throne world, which Bungie has already shown is massive and expansive in so many different environments. We're getting weapon crafting, which is something that people have wanted for 5, 6, 7 years now. You know, we are getting a new raid and obviously a master version of the raid. We're getting the quote-unquote best campaign yet, according to Bungie, and even with its own legendary difficulty option for replayability and everything in between. I just think that on paper, it's impossible for Witch Queen to be that big of a disappointment, especially when, you know, a DLC like 𝗏𝗏𝗡 was already fairly disappointing. Plus, we're getting Void 3.0. I didn't even mention that, but Void 3.0, pretty cool, looks awesome. This is a spicy take. Yeah, definitely can't agree with it. Next up, Destiny 2 is a video game. I don't know why you would say something so controversial. Like, genuinely, that is hurtful to the people at Bungie. So you should honestly be ashamed of yourself. Moving on. This one is about the Witch Queen raid. It says, if it is a Scorn raid, it will be significantly worse. The most annoying enemy type in the game other than fallen champs. And I am going to hit the fat disagree dab on that tweet. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the Scorn. I know a lot of people think the Scorn are annoying. I think the Scorn are awesome. I thought Presage in Season of the Chosen was fantastic. It captured the horror vibes perfectly. I didn't mind fighting them. I thought it was fun given the setting and everything like that. And here's the thing, we have never gotten a Scorn raid before, or an actual like Scorn dungeon, right? I think the new raid would be objectively worse if we saw an enemy type that we've already I think the new raid would be objectively worse if we've already fought an enemy type that, you know, we've already fought a ton before inside of a raid scenario. Now, Bungie can, you know, fix this with really interesting bosses and mechanics and maybe throw in some Hive Guardians in there, but like, we don't have a Scorn raid. You know, I think that objectively speaking, that is the best course of action because it is something that we have yet to see, and therefore it is going to feel so new that, yeah, I think it's going to outweigh the cons of what people think about Scorn. You know, maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I think Scorn are cool, but yeah, I enjoyed Presage a lot. I did not mind fighting them in an in-game scenario in Master Presage, and I think a Scorn raid would be objectively the coolest thing that they could do for Witch Queen. Moving on, we have a PvP hot take, which says, double primary was the best state Crucible has ever been in. Okay. As someone who mained PvP in Destiny 1 and mained PvP in Destiny 2 towards the beginning, played a lot of Trials of the Nine, no, because double primary removes any semblance of being able to consistently have those whoa moments where you outplay a group of other people by simply using like movement combined with skill shots and everything like that, because, you know, special ammo was heavy ammo, right? And it just, the game boiled down into walking with a fire team with auto rifles and scout rifles and team shotting people. Team shotting people worse than what you see in Halo. Like, this was the egregious type of team shotting where every engagement was just team shotting. If you were in a competitive environment, those you guys that played Trials of the Nine back in the day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think this hot take is awful, but you're entitled to your own opinion, even if it's wrong. Now, moving on from there, we have, oh my lord, I don't even know what to say about this hot take, all right? So this one says, a very hard to swallow pill for Destiny 2 PvE gamers. PvP KDA, which is kill death ratio and, you know, assist ratio, whatever, is the best indication of a player's skill ceiling in high-end PvE content. Why? It probably directly correlates to their 3D awareness, ability to land shots consistently, and ability to perform high APM in Destiny. Yeah, so for those of you guys that main PvE and have day one raids but are like dog shit at PvP, sound off in the comments. I like how this tweet starts off with "it's the best indication" and then goes on to say "it probably." I see what you're trying to say here. I do, but I disagree. I heavily disagree. I know plenty of people that are dog at PvP, but have multiple like trio flawless and day one raids and stuff like that. Yeah, I a big disagree. Massive disagree. That is probably the spiciest take you'll see in this video. My jaw dropped when I read that. So yeah, that's interesting. Moving on. For my friend Pigeon, he says, hot take. The raid for Witch Queen needs to have a strong story connection to satisfy in-game players. This is one that you guys are gonna have to answer. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, because I disagree, but I don't know if I'm in the minority, because I genuinely, okay, I like Destiny's story, right? I really do. I think the Destiny story is cool. I'm not a lore nerd like a lot of other people, but I do enjoy a little bit of Destiny's story, which is why I'm so hyped for the Witch Queen one, but I couldn't care less if the raid was connected to the story or not. As long as it's fun, as long as the enemies are cool, the lore doesn't really matter to me. I did enjoy how DSC was connected, to the Beyond Light story, but like with Vault of Glass, like back in the day, I loved Vault of Glass, even though it had nothing to do with anything in Destiny 1. It was just like, hey, there's a raid. I was like, cool, played the shit out of it. Of course, though, with like Crow's End and with King's Fall, those are tied to the story, but I never enjoyed them anymore. Well, okay, King's Fall, I did enjoy King's Fall. That one, yeah, that was cool. That was really cool, but I don't need a story connection to enjoy the raid. So let me know in the comments. I know a lot of you lore nerds would definitely have something to say. I just don't have that much to say about this. Now, moving on, we have a YouTube comment which says, hot take, pickles on a chicken sandwich are amazing, but there's never enough pickles on the sandwich. Dude, I agree. Totally agree. Like, if you take your pickles off when you eat a chicken sandwich, especially a spicy chicken sandwich, what are you doing? Pickles belong on chicken sandwich. If you don't like pickles, grow up, all right? I know that wasn't a Destiny 2 hot take, but it needed to be said. All right, moving on. VoG is the worst raid in this game and could be passed off as the next Bloons tower defense game. Now, this is an interesting talking point that I wanted to bring up because it's very important to distinguish whether we're talking about a raid in its prime or a raid in its current state, because this might be a hot take incoming. Last Wish is the worst raid in Destiny 2 right now. It is awful. Last Wish is pure trash right now in Destiny 2. In the case of Last Wish, it's so outdated right now that it really needs a facelift. And in my opinion, it's just the most boring raid. It has some of the worst loot. All the bosses have no health. They can all die to falling guillotine without even thinking. VoG, at the very least, is a little more interesting. I think Gatekeeper, whenever you don't cheese it, is fun. I think Templar is like a fun little mini-boss thing, but it doesn't even feel like a real boss because it's got that Last Wish health bar type stuff going on. And Atheon, I actually think Atheon's a cool fight. But yeah, if we're talking about a raid in its prime, yeah, Last Wish, it shits all over VoG, and yeah, VoG is definitely the worst, because VoG is public event, the raid. And of course, it's not like I'm talking bad about VoG, because it is the first raid ever made, so it should be the worst. Like, objectively speaking, if VoG wasn't the worst raid, objectively, in its prime, then yeah, that would be bad, because it was the first ever raid that Bungie made, and if their newer raids aren't better than VoG, then that's a bad sign. So interesting topic of discussion. Are you talking about the objective, like the raid at its peak, or are you talking about the raid currently? Obviously, I think he's talking about the raid at its peak, at its best. And yeah, I would agree in that sense. Now, moving on. Speaking of raids, we have a very interesting one here that says Garden of Salvation is actually the best raid in the game. It makes Gambit-like mechanics feel actually rewarding to do and is easily the most visually appealing. On top of that, its loot is one of the best kinetic bows and pulse rifles, and Divinity is a fantastic exotic for in-game content. Now, going back to what we just talked about a raid at its peak versus a raid in its current state, I would agree with this statement if we're talking about raids in their current state, because I feel as though Garden of Salvation is the best, at least as far as normal mode is concerned, is the best current raid. Now, DSC, I think at its peak, is one of the best raids ever created, but nobody can disagree with the fact that 𝗍𝗔 is just a pushover in every sense of the imagination. Like, you know, 𝗁𝗔𝘃𝗲, you can one phase it without even thinking. Aatrax, you can literally kill her on the first floor without even like trying, right? And of course, Taniks, it's almost impossible to not one phase him. Garden of Salvation, on the other hand, is a little interesting. You know, the first encounter I think is really fun because it involves constant movement. The second encounter, it lasts a little too long, but it's kind of like a nice little refresher. The third encounter, which is the 𝗁𝗏, is one of the cooler, you know, raid bosses because you need to chase after it, and I think that's a really cool mechanic. And of course, the final one, I know it can be a little bit buggy, but I do enjoy the last boss encounter because it has a very short damage window, which it makes you need to like optimize your DPS, whereas Taniks is like, yeah, you got 18 years to deal DPS, and with Riven, you can DPS her throughout the entire fight before, you know, the boil phase. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think Garden currently for normal mode is the best raid in the game. I think it's the most fun. I think it's the most engaging compared to the other normal mode raids right now. Now, moving on from there, let's go back to a PvP hot take. We have people need to stop treating Destiny 2 as an esports game and accept that it will always be cheesy AF. Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of people that are very competitive PvP homies that really, really take PvP seriously are going to disagree, but Destiny, it just has nothing going for it in terms of being something that should be taken competitively. Now, you could argue that Trials of Osiris should be taken competitively because it's an in-game activity, but even then, Trials is becoming more and more casual friendly by the day. I think the only thing that deserves to be taken seriously is comp, and not even Bungie takes comp seriously. You know, the meta shifting all the time. This is how I talk about Destiny 2 PvP. It is the most consistently inconsistent mode of any PvP I've ever seen. You know, one season it could be really fun, it could be really cool, and then the next season, Bungie adds Lorenz Driver. Or they add stasis where you can be frozen 24/7. Or they have, like, you know, last word on controller where you practically can't miss a headshot. And it's like, dude, yeah, I don't know how people take this game seriously. It's got so much cheese in it that I play something else if you're gonna be like super competitive, because Destiny, it's not it. So yeah, I agree with this. Moving on, we have one that says the game has way too many toxic rats and it makes it just a drag to try and be a part of the community because they seem unavoidable whatever you do. And yeah, I 100% agree with this. I don't consider myself part of the Destiny 2 community. Now, I'm friends with a lot of content creators and I'm friends with a lot of people in the community, but I don't like to think of me being a part of the Destiny 2 community because it's bad, man. There's constant drama. There's constant like people that are being just rude to each other, and just obviously it's the internet and that kind of stuff is going to happen, but from Destiny 1 going to Destiny 2, it feels like night and day as someone who's grown up with this franchise. And yeah, I don't consider myself part of the Destiny 2 community. I consider you guys part of my community, if that makes sense. Like, everyone on this channel that watches my content, enjoys my stuff, you are the people that I like. You are my community. I don't really care about the Destiny 2 community as much as I care about you guys and the community that I've built, you know, and the people who I'm friends with. You know, I'm friends with plenty of streamers and plenty of YouTubers and stuff like that, but the general Destiny community as a whole, yeah, I don't like it, and I don't really consider myself to be a part of it because, yeah, it's way too toxic. You know, I know a lot of gaming communities have a lot of toxicity going on, but Destiny just seems like it used to not be like that. And it's definitely evolved into something that is something I don't even recognize since the Destiny 1 days. Moving on, we have another hot take that says Eater of Worlds was the best raid from year 1 Destiny 2. What? Listen, first off, Eater of Worlds wasn't a raid. It was a raid layer. And I'm gonna be honest, I hate raid layers. I think they were some of the worst things that Bungie's ever done. Like, just could have just been a dungeon, you know. That was like the modern day, that was the old version of the modern day dungeon. Eater of Worlds, man. Eater of Worlds was better than Leviathan, was better than Spire. Dude, 𝗁𝗏 is one of the best boss fights Bungie has ever created. And the 𝗁𝗏 boss fight before, you know, it got the Last Wish treatment where it was super, just the bot, you know, the health bar and everything just aged poorly. The 𝗁𝗏 fight was great. The 𝗁𝗏 fight was great. Eater of Worlds? The 6-man strike? Nah, dude, I gotta disagree. I don't even like Leviathan, all right? I don't even like Leviathan as a raid, and I gotta say, bro, you are disrespecting 𝗍𝗑. I will not hear any more from you. Moving on. This next hot take says, God rolls are preference. Don't get me wrong, there are bad rolls, but God rolls are preference. And previously, I wanted to say that this wasn't a hot take. I thought this was understood by everybody, but no, it is not. It is not understood by everybody. As somebody who makes weapon videos on YouTube, dude, I get so many toxic comments sometimes where like I'll recommend, for example, like the Last Breath, right? It can roll with Demo and Adrenaline Junkie, and it can also roll with like Demo and 𝗏𝗏𝗱/Frenzy. 9 times out of 10, I'm always going to recommend the Frenzy and the 𝗏𝗏𝗱 roll, and I'm going to completely ignore Adrenaline Junkie. That's because Adrenaline Junkie isn't as usable in in-game content as Frenzy and 𝗏𝗏𝗱 is. But Adrenaline Junkie for other people is really good, you know, because they play casual content, they use grenade builds and stuff like that. But for me, I'm an in-game player, so I want to get damage buffs that are going to be up more often. You know what I mean? But some people don't understand that when they watch a video from me, that my video has my own bias, my own preference. There are people that, yeah, do not get that God rolls are preference. And I'll put in a video title, or I'll say that something is a God roll, and there'll be that guy in the comments, no, it's not. It's not a God roll. Clearly, you're ignoring Adrenaline Junkie subsistence. And it's like, bro, listen, if that's the role that you prefer to take into a lost sector, great. But you're watching the channel of a guy that you can't take out of the Grandmaster playlist, okay? So this is my bias, this is my preference, these are my God rolls, because you're watching my video, you know? So yeah, I thought that this wasn't a hot take, but then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, this is a hot take. People do not understand God rolls are preference. I agree with you, pleb boy on Twitch, so thank you for that tweet. Moving on, we have a hot take that says, in this one, another spicy one, and it's PvP. Trials should scrap win 7 games in a row and adopt a skill-based rank system and rewards. Sir, what you just described is basically what the comp playlist should be. Trials does Trials does not need to change. Trials does not need to change. It needs to stay the same because it is its own unique thing. What you just described is how the competitive playlist should work. Big disagree, personally. Moving on, we have one from YouTube again. There wasn't that many on YouTube, but this one is from YouTube. It says, Gambit is way overhated and can be very fun with a fire team, but it can also be fun by yourself as well. Joseph Knowles, how much fun do you have solo playing Gambit? Because listen, the first part of what you said, big agree. I think Gambit's overhated. I think it's very fun in the fire team. Being fun solo? Have you lost your damn mind? No. Gambit is not fun solo. That is cap. That is a lie. That's sinful to say. Disagree. But the other part, yeah, I agree. Moving on. This right here, this hot take, this hot take had me flabbergasted. If you guys thought that PvP hot take earlier about being good in PvP makes you better in PvE, and that's like the objective way to tell, this one is gonna knock your pants off. Okay, raid titles should require a flawless completion. If I see a Guardian with Enlightened or Descendant, and they don't have the flawless shader on at least one piece of gear, I think they don't deserve the title. Whoa, okay, so the first sentence, I agree. Because titles are a pure cosmetic thing, and I think that, you know, making them harder to get, if you're gatekeeping some people from getting it, that's okay because it's only purple letters, and if they can't do a flawless raid, then that shows that they haven't mastered the raid, and therefore, yeah, I don't think that the title should be obtained otherwise. You should need to do the flawless raid to get the title. But to say that you're judging people for using a title and not having a flawless shader equipped, dude, listen, I don't use Enlightened or Descendant as titles. I use Reckoner because, you know, Gambit Prime, baby, you know what I'm saying? But dude, if you sent me a message and was like, bro, I see that you got that Descendant title, but holy shit, you're not using Cryptic Legacy or whatever the shader is, so I think you're trash. Dude, that is some elitism. Don't do that. Don't be elitist. That's a bad thing. That is PvE. That is toxic PvE player right there in the flesh. No, don't do that. Disagree with the latter part of what you said. Moving on. Very interesting talking point here, and I really, if you guys are going to take anything away from this video, this is the one thing I want you guys to talk about in the comments. Giblets said, the game since Beyond Light has been far better for new players. The content loss to the DCV might have been good for legacy folks, but the game was so large and unified, or ununified, I guess, it was a nightmare to come into. So I guess Beyond Light greater than 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 and Red War. Now, as someone who stopped playing Destiny in Curse of Osiris and came back in Season of the Worthy, I agree. I don't know if you guys are going to agree, but I agree because holy shit, dude, I was lost in the sauce whenever I came back. Like, there was just so much content in the game, right? Like, I know for older players, that's a good thing, right? And even now, I would probably prefer a lot of content in the game. But what he's saying is what is good for new players. I agree. I think having less content like forges and menagerie and like all this crazy stuff that you're getting quests for while you're trying to just get into the game. Yeah, I agree. I think Beyond Light has been better for new players. Now, granted, the new player experience, regardless, is dog water. It's still bad. But like now we have like a natural progression for new players, right? They join the game, they do the starter quest, the New Light stuff. Prophecy is their first bump up to in-game content, and then Vault of Glass is their second bump up to in-game content. And then of course they can power level and do Master, Vogue, and Grand Masters. I think it's a more linear way to experience the game. It is a better way and more refined way to experience the game as a new player. As an older player, though, I will say again, I think it is nice to have all the old stuff in the game because it's not going to confuse us, right? But for newer players, I agree with what you said. I want you guys to sound off in the comments. Let me know. I think this is a very interesting hot take. I loved this one, man. This one was really good. All right, moving on. We have 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏, who says, this one will piss some people off for sure. Destiny 2 is both a PvE and PvP game, not one or the other. Smiley face. Now, I know 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 is subscribed to my channel. He makes YouTube videos, by the way, if you guys didn't know. He makes PvP videos. And I'm subscribed to him as well. So, hey, don't hate me for this if you're watching. I think Demon Joe hot take incoming. Destiny 2 is a PvE game with PvP in it. And here's why. If Destiny 2 was both a PvE and PvP game, I feel as though PvP wouldn't have been so neglected the way that it's been, right? I feel like PvP wouldn't have the balance issues that it has. I feel like PvP wouldn't have had to deal with stasis for 6 months straight without a hotfix to really balance things out if Bungie viewed the game PvE and PvP on the same level. I think that Destiny 2 is a PvE game first. It always will be, with just PvP in it. And even when Bungie here's the interesting thing. When Bungie talks about PvP in Destiny, what they describe it as is exactly what I just said, in the sense that they can't imagine a Destiny where you don't get a weapon and then go test it out on players in the Crucible, right? It's almost like that's how they view it. Like, you get these weapons in PvE, and then just for funsies, you go into PvP and you use it on other players. This is why I don't like PvP in Destiny. You know, I like PvP in general. I'm not an anti-PvP person. I grew up playing Halo 3, right? One of the most competitive Bungie games. I mean, the most competitive shooter on console, right? I played it, not competitively, but I played it like seriously. Like, I played ranked matches back when I was a kid, teabagging people and calling them bad words. I grew up in that era, and I still like PvP games, just not Destiny, because I think Destiny is just a bad PvP experience because of what I just said earlier about like Lorenz Driver, and then what I just said about stasis and Crucible maps, you know, how Bungie has treated the Trials of Osiris rework and you know, Iron Banner taking so long to get, like, dude, I feel as though if Destiny 2 was a PvE and PvP game, PvP would not be in shambles the way that it is. Now, things can change. Bungie have said in the past that, you know, going forward, they are going to focus on PvP, and like we're going to get Rift, and there's going to be new Crucible maps every year and stuff like that. So this can shift, but in its current state, I'm going to have to big disagree. I think Destiny 2 is a PvE game. Nothing is going to take that away from it, because nobody knows about Destiny because of its PvP, you know, because there is no pro scene. Everyone that talks about PvP, everyone that mains PvP, like hates it or really dislikes it. And then PvE players, the main complaint I see from PvE players is that either, you know, raids are like too easy, or like content isn't hard enough, or like there just isn't enough content. They just want more. Whereas PvP, there's just things that are fundamentally wrong with it from the core, let alone the lack of content that it has, you know? So that's my opinion on it. Disagree, agree. I know a lot of people have known me for the guy that just hates PvP. I don't hate PvP. It's just that Bungie doesn't want me to like PvP, you know, the way that they treat it. So, you know, take that take however you will. 𝗿𝗡𝗡, I appreciate the tweet though. Let me know what you think in the comments if you're watching this video. Moving on. We have a hot take that says, Rise of Iron is better than Taken King. No. No. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. No. Now, I will say Rise of Iron is better than Beyond Light. Rise of Iron is better than Shadowkeep. I will not say Rise of Iron is better than Taken King, though, because Taken King was, like, insane. I still, to this day, think that Taken King was better than Forsaken, only because a lot of the praise that Forsaken got was because they turned Destiny 2 back into Destiny 1 with things like randomly rolled weapons and such, like, just quality of life changes that should have been in the game from the get-go, and people praise Forsaken for. It was cool, though, that Forsaken did include, like, 2 destinations and Gambit and stuff like that, but I just like the Taken King more. I like the Dreadnought, I like the story more, I like Oryx more, and of course, this was like the first time that Bungie revolutionized Destiny and made it bigger than what it was. Destiny was a joke of a game and then got made into something just insane. Whereas Forsaken didn't really revolutionize Destiny, right? It added a lot of content, but the way that it revolutionized the game was because it just, like, you know, made it like Destiny 1. So I will say Rise of Iron's better than Shadowkeep. It's better than Beyond Light. Better than Taken King, though? No. Rise of Iron's story was cool. Felwinter's Peak, awesome. You know, that kind of stuff. Obviously, Wrath of the Machine, I think Wrath, from a gameplay standpoint, was better than King's Fall. But as a DLC, the entire DLC being better than Taken King, gonna have to disagree. Moving on, we have one from Ryan. And I don't think that this is a hot take, but I feel like my response to this is going to be the hot take. RNG raid exotics are not fun and are just frustrating. A Divinity-style quest where there are extra encounters is the better way to earn raid exotics, as it feels like you went through a gauntlet and truly earned your exotic. I disagree. I know. Put down your pitchforks. All right, listen, as I've said before, I'm a Destiny 1 player, right? One of my favorite parts of Destiny 1 was the RNG, the ruthless RNG. And the reason it was so fun is because you never knew when or what was going to happen as far as loot was concerned, for the most part. And those moments, the first time I got Hawkmoon, dude, the first time I got Hawkmoon, I will never forget. The first time I got Gjallarhorn and Thunderlord and Icebreaker through the Nightfall playlist, I will never forget. But with raid exotics like RNG, like Vex Mythoclast to this day, I loved whenever Vex dropped for me, it was insane. But with raid exotics being quest-based, I think about those experiences that I had in Destiny 1, and then I think about raid exotics being quest-based, and the only thing I can think about is where you describe it as going through a gauntlet and earning your exotic. I think of, oh, okay, so I looked at the Dado guide online and went and got my exotic. That's my story, you know? I like RNG exotics way more than quest exotics. And this is coming from someone that didn't get Eyes of Tomorrow and didn't get Vex Mythoclast, the 2 RNG exotics that we've gotten in Destiny 2. It took me forever to get those exotics, all right? So this isn't coming from someone that gets his exotics handed to him. It took me like 50 vault clears to get Vex Mythoclast. It took me like 30 to 40 DSC to get Eyes of Tomorrow. So I'm not saying this because like I have good RNG. No. I just think the story is cool, you know, behind getting the exotic. I don't like that being taken away from me, but I'm not like upset, you know, if something is a quest exotic, you know what I mean? Now, moving on, we have another raid hot take which says Leviathan should have stayed. It is one of, if not the best introduction to raids for players. I disagree. I think that 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 is way better in terms of a raid, and the main reason is because Leviathan, I would agree with you if it were not for like the underbelly. For one, the underbelly, just if you're a newer player, you're going to be stuck walking around in there for like hours before you figure out what the hell is going on. But two, 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 is just meant for new players, man. Like half of the encounters are public events, you know, like, okay, you stand on plates, you shoot enemies to open the vault. Cool. All right, you defend a conflux from enemies. Cool. You know, and you play Simon Says with these balls. Cool. You know what I mean? And then you have like a maze, a very simple maze, just don't get spotted. And then of course with Templar, it's a really easy, really easy boss, right? To kind of like ramp you up. And then of course Gatekeeper is like the first, if you're not cheesing it, the first like mechanically challenging thing that's going on. And then Atheon is like another step, you know, where you can instantly wipe your team if you make a mistake. And I think that VoG is a way better introduction raid personally. You feel free to disagree, but I think VoG does it way better. And maybe I'm a little biased because I just don't like Leviathan. Now, moving on, we have a very interesting take that I wanted some of you guys to talk about in the comments. This one is another PvP one. It says, if the PvP community was less toxic, then PvP would be in a better place. We are the reason the mode is dying, but people can't seem to let go of the ego because the game is literally the only thing they have. I don't think the PvP community is the reason that PvP is dying. I think the PvP community being toxic doesn't affect it at all. I mean, obviously people are going to look down on it, but Bungie is the reason that the PvP community is not in a good place. Bungie actively neglecting and not showing any love to PvP is why it's bad. It's not the community. You know, the community can be toxic all they want, and I'm sure Bungie would still, I mean, it's Bungie's obligation. They're the developer. This is a part of their game. They should be developing for it, right? They should be supporting it. I don't think it has anything to do with the PvP community, to be honest with you. I do believe, or, you know, I do agree that the community is toxic, but again, we've talked about that earlier. What community isn't, right? Even PvE, from what we saw from a hot take earlier, can seem pretty toxic. But no, I think it's just Bungie. It's just Bungie's fault. It has nothing to do with the community personally, but I appreciate the hot take. And lastly, we have the last hot take here for the video. I just had to throw this in there because I've been wanting to say this in a video for a while. He says the tower, by the way, this is my boy Flo, all right, one of my friends. The tower is boring, needs an update, and not having a landing zone or a landong zone near Sane 14 is dumb. I agree. The tower is boring. The tower needs an update, and the update it needs is the Destiny 1 tower, bro. It's just so much better. It's not even, you can't debate it, bro. The tower from Destiny 1, so much more condensed. It looks more iconic. It looks more pleasing to the eye. Destiny 2's tower sucks. I've always hated it ever since day one. You know, back whenever you had to go on the farm and then work your way to get to the tower by playing Destiny 2's story. You know, even when I first arrived, I was like, dude, this place is massive and it sucks. Destiny 1 tower, man. Bring it back. But guys, that is going to do it for the video. That has been 25 hot takes, and we just recorded that, at least without editing. We've been recording for 43 minutes, so we got it under an hour, baby. Let's go. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below of this video. Very interesting. Lots of hot takes, a lot of interesting stuff going on. I loved making this, man. This was fun. I absolutely loved your guys' takes. By the way, if I did seem kind of harsh or like condescending or something when I was reading your take, I literally was only that way for the video. Towards any of the people that I disagreed with, I mean no disrespect, not at all. You know, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I don't want you thinking of me as toxic because I was like a smart ass whenever I said something. Literally just for entertainment purposes. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but if I did disagree with you and I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. You know, let me nuzzle your neck, maybe give you a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, you know what I mean, as an apology. But seriously though, yeah, I don't mean any, nothing but love towards the people that I disagreed with. And thank you so much for your hot takes, regardless of if I thought it was a good or a bad one. You guys single-handedly helped me make today's video, and I'm very thankful for that. So thank you to everyone that participated. If you guys do want to see more hot take videos, maybe one after Witch Queen comes out that is completely Witch Queen centric, let me know, please. Sound off in the comments, let me know. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I need to edit this video together because I am tired and I want to go to bed. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. I hope you guys enjoyed.